It's day one of Trading Paces. I am so excited for a weekend full of immaculate vibes, but sometimes even Hangin-out-a-thon needs to get a bit more real. I am here today with Asha from the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. Asha, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all today about the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. It's been great getting to know you and learning a bit more about the work you do. But for everyone at home, could you talk a bit more about your role here at the Women's Foundation of Minnesota?
Sure thing. I'm the Institutional Fundraising Manager for the Women's Foundation of Minnesota. We've been a foundation active in the state of Minnesota for over 40 years. We were the first statewide women's foundation in the country and the first foundation to receive a donation of over $1 million. So we've been around for a long time, and I will say that our relationships with our partners that we have established over those 40 years is a key reason why the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund was so successful.
So can you describe the impact of the IRRF on the community in Minnesota?
Yeah, absolutely. As you guys will know, the impact from Operation Metro Surge and the increase in customs and immigration enforcement actions in the state was just catastrophic. Communities were really, really struggling. And our leaders, our philanthropic leaders, came together when they saw where the writing was on the wall and realized that there was going to be significant harm to initially the Latin community. And 17 organizations represented by 33 philanthropic leaders came together to talk about how to best help that community respond to the ensuing actions. And so they started the Minnesota Latin Aid Fund, but quickly realized that the scope of the harm was going to be well beyond the Latin Aid community. So they had to expand to make sure that all communities impacted by these increased enforcement actions were represented as part of the fund. So I do want to talk about the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund as a philanthropic collaborative. It's not a Women's Foundation fund. We are privileged to be able to host it, and we do a lot of the granting out. We help the funds get back to the community, but all of the philanthropic leaders who were part of the fund utilized and mobilized their extensive networks across the state in order to help us raise money really very, very quickly in response to the emergency. So one thing I would say that we realized very quickly that our fundraising had far exceeded our fairly modest target. So we initially set out to raise $5 million, and after 3 or 4 days of officially having the fund open, we thought our giving inbox was broken because we'd received so many donations. And this wasn't just because of the Women's Foundation, this was all of the foundations who were members of the collaborative who were encouraging their networks, their counterparts, their existing partnerships across the country to donate to this one fund. So one of the biggest impacts, I think, was the really phenomenal coordination of the philanthropic actors in the state to come together for a single purpose. And one thing that can really harm responses to emergencies and to crises is when different organizations effectively compete against each other for funding. And so this collaborative was really careful to avoid doing that. So they networked with other foundations to make sure that different funds were requesting support for different actions. So the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund raised money for urgent basic needs, for legal services, and for community mobilization and organization. And they had these 3 tiers of response. The money that came in really just rapidly exceeded our expectations. From our target of $5 million, we received $15 million in between mid-January and mid-April.
Wow.
And I think just because we had, we're a unique foundation in that we do have an endowment, but we also raise money and we also issue grants. We had a very nimble system that enabled us to respond very quickly. So while we raised $15 million, we were granting out we granted out $12.5 million worth of grants to the community in that time. So it was, I think 70% of those funds went to rent assistance, urgent basic need, food, transportation, healthcare, and the remainder of it went to things like legal services and to helping communities prepare for and respond to kind of increased actions in their neighbourhoods.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And how will donations from this event help the IRRF take real action?
Well, that's a great question. And so the IRRF emerged as a very specific response to a very specific set of crises. And now that we're finding with the kind of the reduction in the presence of Department of Homeland Security and ICE agents in the state, that we're moving away from emergency response and into a kind of a longer-term recovery, economic recovery situation. And so the fund is transitioning its purpose. It's always been community-led. The coalition is formed of representatives of the communities that were most affected, and that will remain the case. They were meeting on a weekly basis to grant out up to 10 awards every single week, and each award ranged in between $25,000 and $600,000. That kind of stopped in mid-April with the spend down of most of the fund. So the remaining funds there, the coalition at the moment is identifying 4 communities and 4 organisations that represent those communities that are going to carry forward the recovery work and the response work. So what we'll do with the remaining funds is to issue it to each of these 4 organisations to just continue the work as it's needed. And that is, that's kind of how we'll be moving forward. And so funds from this amazing event will contribute to that, so they'll be granted out. We anticipate that each of the awards initially will be around $250,000 to each of the organisations, and they will just be kind of general operations to support to help them do what is needed in their communities. So anything that you guys can contribute will assuredly go to good use.
Absolutely. If folks can't donate, then how can they help stand up against threats such as ICE?
Continue to participate, continue to stand up for what's right. Minnesotans are awesome and amazing, and we were blown away. Myself as a brown immigrant, I was absolutely astounded at the willingness of people in their tens of thousands to stand up and say what's happening is wrong. And I think that is something that can be replicated anywhere around the country. So that is the first thing. Continue to participate, continue to speak up, continue to make noise when something is wrong. And then I think the important thing is to remember that what happened was the result of policies. And so for everybody who is concerned about what happened, look ahead and start working with your communities on how to advance policy change as the years pass by.
And speaking of looking ahead, what is the IRRF looking to accomplish throughout 2026?
The coalition that was expanded from the Latinx community will end up, after the funds are expended, will continue as the Minnesota Latinx Fund. So we expect all of the funds that we've gathered to be expended before the end of 2026. They belong in the community, and we're trying to get them out as fast as possible. And then the Latinx Fund will continue. I know that the coalition of leaders is still finalising what that's going to look like, and it will evolve as the situation continues to evolve and the needs dictate how it will unfold eventually. But I would say, with the transition from IRF to Latinx Fund, and then the granting out of all remaining funds to the four representative organisations, that is how we expect this kind of chapter to kind of close down, where the communities, we hand over the resources to the communities and they continue to do what is needed with them.
It's incredible.
Every state donated to the Immigrant Rapid Response Fund, plus 43 different countries. We would just could not anticipate how much support we would receive. And those messages of support and validation, I think, were such a privilege to receive from the Women's Foundation in particular, because while everybody else experienced despair and violence and fear, we saw the love that came from the rest of the country. While everybody else saw the worst of what was happening, we saw the best. And it was so moving. It made it all worth the while. And that we had to divert all of the resources from every part of the organisation to supporting that fund, because it was the right thing to do, it was the right time to do it, and it had to be done. And it was our great privilege to have been able to meet that moment. And we couldn't have done it without the support from the rest of the country.
It's absolutely incredible. I can only imagine like how much support was coming in, how much love. Like you deserve all of the support and so much more. You're doing incredible work.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be able to do it, but as always, the people of Minnesota set the tone.
Absolutely.
They really did. They said, "This is what we want you to spend the money on. Get up and do it." And we did.
The Women's Foundation of Minnesota is really doing incredible work. You can learn more at wfmn.org. You can support them throughout the rest of this event at hanginout.live/donate. Asha, thank you again so much for being here and talking with me about the incredible work that you are doing. I'm overjoyed to be able to be supporting you at this event. And everyone at home, stay tuned for a weekend of chill speedrunning. You do not want to miss it.